President Carol Jensen stood before the largest gathering of intelligent species in galactic history as representatives from over 300 worlds assembled on the rebuilt station where humanity had first been rediscovered 3 years earlier. The ceremony marked the official founding of the Terran Federation Alliance and the signing of the Covenant of Worlds that would govern interstellar relations for generations to come. The document represented everything humanity had hoped to achieve when they first left their exile to protect innocent civilizations from hegemony aggression. The reconstruction of galactic civilization had proceeded faster than anyone thought possible, as former enemy species embraced the human philosophy of cooperation over conquest. The hegemony territories that had once been ruled through fear and oppression now flourished under democratic governments established with human guidance and protection. Worlds that had been stripped of resources to feed military expansion were rebuilding their economies through trade partnerships facilitated by the new alliance structure. Dr. Nancy White presented the final report of the Cultural Integration Project to the assembled delegates and outlined how successfully former enemies had adapted to peaceful coexistence under human protection. The project had helped over 200 species understand concepts like proportional response, negotiated settlement, and collective security that had been alien to civilizations raised under authoritarian rule. The success rate exceeded all. Predictions as species discovered that cooperation produced better results than competition. The never-again doctrine became the foundation of the new galactic order as President Jensen outlined the principles that would guide human involvement in interstellar affairs. The doctrine established humanity's commitment to protecting any civilization that faced existential threats, while respecting the right of each species to govern itself according to its own cultural values. Human forces would intervene only to prevent genocide or large-scale oppression and would withdraw immediately once the threat had been eliminated. Captain Dan Foster addressed the assembly about the expanded role of the Galactic Rangers as the enforcement arm of the new covenant. The Rangers had grown from a small peacekeeping force to a galaxy-spanning organization with volunteer members from every allied species. Their mission remained focused on preventing conflicts through early intervention and mediation, rather than winning wars through superior firepower. The Rangers represented the best values of every member civilization working together under human coordination. The former hegemony core worlds provided the most dramatic examples of how quickly authoritarian societies could transform under human guidance and protection. Worlds that had been military bases devoted to conquest became centers of learning and cultural exchange. Populations that had been raised to view other species as natural enemies discovered the benefits of peaceful trade and diplomatic cooperation. The transformation required massive humanitarian aid programs, but produced results that vindicated human principles about the fundamental desire of all intelligent beings to live in peace. Commander Lisa Wright established the Combined Military Academy on the former hegemony capital world to train officers from all allied species in the tactical doctrines that had proven so effective during the recent war. The Academy emphasized the right doctrine of multi-species coordination, while teaching students that military force should always serve political objectives rather than becoming an end in itself. Graduates returned to their homeworlds as advocates for defensive military strategies designed to deter aggression rather than enable conquest. The economic transformation of former war zones proceeded as rapidly as the political changes, as human administrators helped establish trade networks based on mutual benefit rather than resource extraction. The hegemony had operated on the principle that stronger civilizations had the right to exploit weaker ones. But the new alliance structure treated every species as equal partners regardless of their military capabilities. This approach unlocked economic potential that had been suppressed for centuries under the old system. Dr. Susan Blake led the Historical Truth Commission that documented the actual events of the recent war and ensured that accurate records would be preserved for future generations. The commission's work was essential because hegemony propaganda had distorted public understanding of human motivations and capabilities. The official histories would make clear that humanity had fought to protect innocent civilizations rather than to establish their own empire, and that their victory had been achieved through superior principles rather than superior technology. The memorial ceremony for Admiral Kevin Rogers and the crew of the Independence became an annual observance throughout the Alliance as species from across the galaxy honored the sacrifice that had saved billions of lives. The ceremony emphasized that true heroism came from putting others before oneself, rather than from achieving military glory. Rogers had become a symbol of human values that resonated with beings throughout known space, regardless of their species or cultural background. The integration of former hegemony military officers into the new alliance structure provided one of the greatest challenges and greatest successes of the Reconstruction period. Many career soldiers had spent their entire lives serving an authoritarian system and genuinely believed that military conquest was the natural order of the universe. Human counselors worked patiently with these individuals to help them understand that strength could be used to protect rather than to dominate, and that true warriors defended the innocent rather than preying upon them. Lieutenant Roy Mitchell established veteran support programs that helped former enemy soldiers adapt to peacetime occupations and democratic societies. The programs were based on human understanding that soldiers who had been trained for conquest needed retraining for construction if they were to contribute positively to peaceful civilizations. The success of these programs proved that even the most dedicated warriors could learn to channel their abilities toward protecting rather than destroying. The establishment of the Galactic University system represented humanity's commitment to sharing knowledge rather than hoarding it for military advantage. The universities offered advanced education to students from every allied species and emphasized scientific research directed toward improving living standards rather than developing new weapons systems. Human professors taught alongside scholars from hundreds of different civilizations in an unprecedented exchange of ideas and perspectives. Captain Jake Morrison returned from deep space exploration to witness the transformation that had occurred during his absence and declared that humanity had finally achieved the goals that had motivated their original departure from galactic civilization 1,000 years earlier. The galaxy had learned to choose peace over war and cooperation over conquest. The endless cycles of violence that had plagued interstellar relations for millennia had been broken by species that were willing to work together under human guidance toward shared objectives. The signing ceremony concluded with the installation of a permanent memorial on the rebuilt station containing the complete historical records of humanity's return to galactic civilization. The memorial would serve as a reminder to future generations that peace required constant vigilance and that freedom could only be preserved by those willing to fight for it when necessary. The inscription read that those who had thought humans were myths had learned that the legends were always real and waiting for the galaxy to choose peace over war. The final scene showed children from dozens of different species playing together in parks throughout the former war zones while their parents worked side by side on reconstruction projects that would benefit all member civilizations. The site represented everything humanity had hoped to achieve through their return to galactic affairs, and proved that former enemies could become trusted allies when they shared common values about protecting innocent life and promoting peaceful cooperation. President Jensen's closing address emphasized that the Covenant of Worlds was not an ending, but a beginning, as the galaxy embarked on an era of unprecedented cooperation and mutual prosperity. Humanity would continue to serve as guardians of galactic civilization, but the real work of building lasting peace would require the commitment of every member species to the principles that had made their alliance possible. The Age of Legends had ended and the Age of Reality had begun as the galaxy prepared to explore new frontiers together, rather than fighting over old territories. The ceremony concluded with representatives from every member civilization pledging their commitment to the principles of the Covenant of Worlds and promising to work together toward a future where no species would ever again face the choice between conquest and extinction. The pledge was more than ceremonial words because it represented a fundamental transformation in how intelligent beings related to each other across the vast distances of interstellar space. The galaxy had learned that cooperation produced better results than competition, and that protecting others was more satisfying than conquering them. Maya led the group of freed prisoners through the corridors of the Kethvar ship with the confidence of someone who had memorized every deck plan and patrol route. The alien weapons felt strange in human hands, but Captain Bennett and her crew adapted quickly to their unfamiliar weight and balance. "Stay in formation," Maya whispered as they approached the first checkpoint. "When I move, you follow immediately. Do not hesitate, do not question, just move." Through her enhanced hearing, Maya detected 3 guards at the security station ahead. They were discussing the communication blackout from the detention level, but their tone suggested mild annoyance rather than genuine alarm. The Kethvar still could not imagine that human prisoners might have escaped through violence. Maya gestured for the others to wait while she approached the checkpoint alone. She had replaced her helmet and once again appeared to be just another Kethvar warrior moving through the ship on routine business. The guards barely looked up from their monitoring stations as she walked past them. The first guard realized something was wrong when Maya spun around behind him and drove her blade. Between his shoulder blades, the tip emerged from his chest in a spray of dark blood, but his death cry never had a chance to form. Maya's other hand clamped over his mouth and nose, muffling any sound he might have made. The second guard turned at the sound of his partner's chair scraping against the floor. Maya released the corpse and launched herself across the room in a single fluid motion. Her blade opened the alien's throat in a horizontal slash that sent blood cascading across the control panels. The third guard managed to draw his sidearm and fire a single energy bolt that scorched the air where Maya had been a microsecond earlier. She had already moved, flowing around his line of fire like water around a stone. Her return strike took him in the chest, piercing both hearts and dropping him instantly. Total time elapsed. 4 seconds. The checkpoint was clear. Maya signaled. The prisoners forward, and they moved through the security station, stepping carefully around the spreading pools of alien blood. Dr. Morgan paused to examine one of the bodies with scientific curiosity. "Precise blade work," he observed quietly. "You hit exactly the right spots to cause instant death without allowing any defensive response." "That is the point," Maya replied, checking her weapons and preparing for the next encounter. "Dead enemies cannot raise alarms or call for reinforcements." Lieutenant Chris Parker, the diplomatic mission's security chief, watched Maya work with professional appreciation. He had served with some of Earth's finest soldiers, but he had never seen anyone move with such lethal efficiency. Every motion served a purpose. Every strike landed exactly where it would cause maximum damage with minimum effort. "How many of you are there?" he asked as they moved deeper into the ship. "Enough," Maya answered, which was no answer at all. They reached the main corridor that led to the shuttle bays, but Maya held up her hand to stop their advance. Through the metal walls, she could hear multiple Kethvar voices approaching from ahead. A full patrol, at least 6 warriors moving in formation. Maya turned to Captain Bennett and spoke in a low voice that carried absolute authority. "When I engage them, you take your people and run for the shuttle bay. Do not stop to help me. Do not look back. Get to the ship and prepare for immediate departure." "We are not leaving you behind," Bennett replied firmly. "You are not leaving me behind," Maya said with a cold smile. "You are getting out of my way so I can work without worrying about civilian casualties." The Kethvar patrol rounded the corner and stopped in surprise at seeing what appeared to be a mixed group of their own warriors and human prisoners. For just a moment, confusion paralyzed their reaction as they tried to process this unexpected situation. Maya used that moment of hesitation to strike. She drew both her primary blades and launched herself into the center of the alien formation like a living weapon. The monomolecular edges cut through Kethvar armor and flesh with equal ease, leaving a trail of severed limbs and opened arteries in her wake. The aliens tried to respond with their famous speed, but Maya moved faster than their enhanced reflexes could track. She flowed between them like liquid death, striking at nerve clusters and vital organs with surgical precision. Her enhanced neural implants calculated angles and trajectories in real time, allowing her to anticipate their movements before they made them. The first alien fell with his spine severed at the neck. The second died when Maya's blade punched through his eye socket and into his brain. The third managed to fire his weapon, but the energy bolt went wild as Maya's other blade opened his chest from ribs to pelvis. The fourth guard attempted to grapple with her using his superior size and strength to pin her against the wall. Maya responded by driving her knee into his solar plexus with enough force to rupture internal organs, then finished him with a blade thrust through his skull. The fifth alien tried to retreat and call for backup, but Maya's thrown knife caught him between the shoulder blades and severed his spinal cord. He fell forward, paralyzed but still alive long enough to watch his blood pool on the deck plating. The sixth and final guard managed to activate his communicator and scream a few words of warning before Maya reached him. Her blade silenced him permanently, but the damage was done. Now the entire ship would know that something was wrong. "Run!" Maya commanded, and this time the prisoners did not argue. They sprinted toward the shuttle bay while Maya covered their rear. Retreat, dispatching 2 more guards who appeared from side corridors. Her movements had become a deadly dance, each step flowing into the next as she carved through alien resistance with mechanical efficiency. The shuttle bay was in sight when a security blast door began closing to trap them inside the ship. Maya reached the control panel and drove her blade through the central processing unit, fusing the circuits and leaving the door half open. It was enough space for the humans to squeeze through, but just barely. "Move! Move! Move!" Maya shouted, pushing the freed prisoners through the gap. Energy bolts sizzled past them as more Kethvar guards arrived and opened fire. Maya returned fire with captured alien weapons, her enhanced reflexes allowing her to target multiple enemies simultaneously. Captain Bennett and her crew reached the stolen shuttle and began the startup sequence. Dr. Morgan worked frantically at the navigation console while Private Cooper took position at the weapons controls. The ship's engines came online with a satisfying hum of barely controlled power. Maya was the last one through the blast door gap, rolling and firing as she moved. 3 more Kethvar bodies marked her passage, each one killed with the same brutal efficiency that had become her signature. She sealed the shuttle hatch behind her and strapped into the pilot's seat. "Everyone secured?" she asked, her hands flying over the alien controls. "Ready for departure," Bennett replied from the co-pilot station. The shuttle lifted off and accelerated toward the exit of the docking bay. Behind them, more Kethvar warriors poured into the area, firing their weapons at the retreating craft. Energy bolts splashed harmlessly against the shuttle's shields as Maya pushed the engines to maximum power. They cleared the docking bay and entered open space, leaving the massive Kethvar command ship behind them. Maya set course for the rendezvous point where the Shadow's edge waited to extract them. The mission was complete, but the real impact was just beginning to be felt. On the bridge of the Talhenor, Admiral Zekthor stared at the security footage in complete bewilderment. The recording showed a single human figure moving through his ship like an unstoppable force of nature, killing his best warriors with contemptuous ease. The speed and precision defied everything he thought he knew about human capabilities. "How many attackers were there?" he demanded. "Analysis suggests a single individual, Admiral," his intelligence officer replied with obvious reluctance. "All kills appear to have been made by the same person using identical techniques." "Impossible," Zekthor hissed. "One human could not move that fast or kill that efficiently. There must be multiple attackers." But the evidence was undeniable. 37 of his warriors lay dead, killed by precise blade work that had targeted vital organs and nerve centers with surgical accuracy. The human who had done this moved faster than Kethvar reflexes could register, struck harder than their armor could withstand, and killed more efficiently than any natural predator. Everything they thought they knew about human limitations had just been proven catastrophically wrong. Maya Rodriguez dropped silently from the ventilation shaft during the precise moment when the guard shift change created a gap in surveillance coverage. Her enhanced muscles absorbed the impact of the 12-foot fall without making a sound, landing in a crouch behind a support pillar just outside the main detention area. The first Kethvar sentry stood with his back to her, examining a status display on the wall. His attention was completely focused on the routine readings, confident that no threat could possibly exist in this secure area of the ship. Maya approached him like a shadow, her footsteps silent on the metal deck plating. Her hand moved faster than biological reflexes could register. The monomolecular blade extended from her gauntlet and sliced through the warrior's spinal column at the base of his skull, severing his neural pathways instantly. He collapsed without making a sound, his brain never receiving the signals that would have triggered pain or alarm. Maya caught his body as it fell and lowered it gently to the floor. 1 down, 7 to go. The second guard heard a faint scraping sound and turned to investigate. His enhanced Kethvar vision was among the best in the galaxy, capable of detecting movement in near-total darkness. But Maya moved faster than his. Visual processing could track, flowing between the shadows like liquid death. The guard's throat opened in a precise cut that severed his vocal cords before he could cry out. Blood sprayed across the wall in an arterial pattern that would have been beautiful if it had not meant death. Maya was already moving past his falling corpse before it hit the ground. In his detention cell, Private Ryan Cooper pressed his face against the energy barrier that contained him. The young Marine had exceptional hearing, trained through years of combat in environments where the softest sound could mean the difference between life and death. He heard something moving in the corridor outside, something that flowed through the shadows with predatory grace. A third Kethvar guard emerged from a side passage, carrying a steaming cup of some alien beverage. He took 3 steps before Maya materialized beside him like a nightmare given form. Her blade found the gap between his helmet and neck armor, sliding between vertebrae to pierce his brainstem. Death was instantaneous and silent. The fourth guard looked up from his card game just in time to see his partner collapse. His mouth opened to shout a warning, but Maya's second blade had already left her hand, spinning through the air with mathematical precision. It struck him in the throat, the monomolecular edge cutting through scaled flesh like it was made of paper. He gurgled once and died. The remaining 4 guards finally realized they were under attack. They reached for their weapons with the lightning fast, reflexes that had made the Kethvar feared throughout the galaxy. But Maya Rodriguez moved faster than lightning. The 5th warrior had his energy pistol halfway out of its holster when Maya's knee struck him in the solar plexus with enough force to stop his heart. She spun past his falling body and launched, herself at the 6th guard, who was bringing his rifle to bear on her position. Her blade opened his chest from sternum to spine in a diagonal slash that painted the walls with alien blood. Guard number 7 managed to activate his communication device and began speaking frantically into it. "Security breach in detention. Block, we need—" The words ended in a wet choking sound as Maya's blade found his windpipe. The communicator clattered to the floor, transmitting only silence to whoever had been listening. The 8th and final guard was the most experienced of the group, a veteran warrior who had survived dozens of battles across 3 star systems. He moved with practiced efficiency, drawing both his sidearm and a curved fighting blade simultaneously. For just a moment, it seemed like he might present a real challenge to the human killer who had butchered his comrades. Maya evaluated his stance and weapon placement in the microseconds it took her to close the distance between them. Left-handed primary grip, right-hand blade held in reverse grip for close quarters work, feet positioned for maximum stability and mobility. He was good, very good by Kethvar standards. By human special forces standards, he was already dead. Maya feinted left and went right, her enhanced reflexes allowing her to change direction faster than the alien's nervous system could process. Her blade slid between his ribs and pierced his heart while his own weapons were still moving to intercept her phantom attack. He looked down at the metal protruding from his chest with an expression of complete bewilderment. "Impossible," he whispered in his native language. "Humans are slow." "Some are," Maya replied in perfect Kethvar, withdrawing her blade. "I am not." The guard fell backward, dead before he hit the floor. Total elapsed time from the first kill to the last: 17 seconds. 8 professional alien warriors eliminated without triggering a single alarm or allowing any communication to escape the detention block. Maya surveyed the carnage she had created with the detached professionalism of someone who had trained for this moment her entire adult life. Blood covered the walls in arterial patterns. Bodies lay twisted in the positions where death had taken them, and the air smelled of alien biochemistry and violent ends. In the detention cells, the human prisoners stared through the energy barriers at their rescuer. Captain Bennett recognized military bearing when she saw it, even behind an alien helmet. This was no lucky escape or fortunate accident. This was a professional military operation executed with surgical precision. "Who are you?" Bennett asked. Maya removed her helmet, revealing a human face marked by the scars of neural augmentation surgery. Her eyes held the cold competence of someone who killed for a living and excelled at their chosen profession. "Lieutenant Maya Rodriguez, Earth Special Forces," she said, moving to the control panel that regulated the detention cell energy barriers. "I am here to take you home." Dr. Morgan watched in fascination as Maya's fingers flew over the alien control interface. "How do you know their systems?" "We know more about them than they know about us," Maya replied, initiating the cell unlock sequence. "That is why they are dead and we are alive." The energy barriers flickered and died, freeing the human prisoners for the first time in weeks. They stumbled out of their cells, weak from confinement, but alive and hopeful for the first time since their capture. Private Cooper approached one of the fallen Kethvar guards and stared down at the precise wound that had ended the alien's life. "They had enhanced reflexes," he said. "I have read the intelligence reports. These things can move faster than normal humans can react." Maya checked her chronometer and calculated their remaining time before the next patrol arrived. 3 minutes and 47 seconds. "They move fast for normal biological creatures," she agreed. "But I am not normal." She began distributing weapons taken from the dead guards, arming the freed prisoners for the journey ahead. Each human took their weapon with the grim satisfaction of people who had been helpless and were now ready to fight back. Captain Bennett hefted an alien energy rifle and tested its balance. The weapon was designed for Kethvar hands, but could be adapted for human use. "How many more guards between us and freedom?" Maya smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. "Enough to make this interesting. Stay close and do exactly what I tell you. We are leaving this ship, and anyone who tries to stop us will join their friends on the floor." The detention block had become a slaughterhouse, proof that the Kethvar intelligence about human capabilities was not just wrong, but catastrophically incomplete. Maya Rodriguez had shown them in the most direct way possible that some humans were far more dangerous than any alien warrior could imagine. Now came the hard part, fighting their way through an entire ship full of enemies who still believed. Humans were slow, clumsy creatures incapable of real violence. Maya looked forward to continuing their education. The stolen Kethvar shuttle moved silently through space toward the massive command ship Talhenor. Maya Rodriguez sat in the pilot's seat, her enhanced eyes studying the alien control systems she had memorized during 3 weeks of intensive training. The shuttle's energy signature matched perfectly with legitimate Kethvar vessels, making it invisible to enemy sensors. Maya wore the scaled armor of a Kethvar warrior, modified to fit her human frame. The helmet covered her face completely, hiding her alien features behind a polarized visor. To any casual observer, she would appear to be just another soldier returning from patrol duty. The docking bay of the Talhenor grew larger on her screens as she approached. Automated systems scanned her shuttle and transmitted clearance codes without human intervention. The Kethvar trusted their technology completely, never imagining that human intelligence operatives had cracked their encryption months earlier. "Shuttle 749, you are cleared for Bay 12, came the bored voice of the docking controller. Maya recognized the casual tone. This was routine for them, nothing worth paying attention to. Perfect. The shuttle settled onto the landing platform with barely a sound. Maya checked her equipment one final time before opening the hatch. Her combat suit contained more weapons than most soldiers carried into major battles, but everything was concealed beneath the alien armor. Monomolecular blades were hidden in her gauntlets, explosive charges nestled against her ribs, and a dozen other tools of death waited for her command. She stepped onto the deck of the enemy ship and began walking toward the exit with the measured pace of a HFY warrior finishing a routine patrol. Other soldiers passed her in the corridors, their attention focused on their own duties. None of them looked closely at the figure in familiar armor who moved among them like a shadow. The ship's layout scrolled through Maya's enhanced memory as she navigated the corridors. Intelligence had provided detailed schematics captured from previous HFY vessels, and her implants cross-referenced every turn, every junction, every potential route to her target. The detention levels were 17 decks below her current position. A group of HFY technicians worked on a damaged power coupling near the main elevator shaft. Maya approached them slowly, listening to their conversation through her suit's audio pickups. They complained about the extra duty shifts, grumbled about the human prisoners taking up valuable space, and speculated about when the executions would begin. "The Admiral says we will make examples of them," one technician said. "Show the other human colonies what happens to those who refuse our generous offer of surrender." "Good," replied another. "These slow creatures have been an annoyance for too long. Better to eliminate them and take their worlds without further delay." Maya filed the information away and continued past them. The technicians barely glanced at her, seeing only another warrior going about official business. Her stolen identity was holding perfectly. She reached the elevator and descended toward the lower levels, where the human prisoners were held. Each deck brought her closer to her objective, and closer to the moment when the HFY would discover exactly how wrong their intelligence had been about human capabilities. The elevator opened on Deck 37, the maximum security level. Maya stepped out and immediately cataloged every detail her enhanced senses could detect. 2 guards at the main checkpoint, their attention focused on a card game rather than their duties. Motion sensors in the corners that could be avoided, with careful movement. Energy barriers protecting the detention cells themselves. She moved deeper into the facility, noting patrol patterns and guard positions. The HFY had assigned exactly 8 warriors to watch 12 human prisoners. Further proof of their contempt for human abilities. In any proper military installation, that ratio would be considered laughably inadequate. Through the walls, her enhanced hearing picked up voices from the detention cells. Captain Bennett was speaking quietly with Dr. Morgan about the aliens' behavior patterns. The diplomat had noticed the same things Maya was seeing: overconfidence, minimal security, guards who treated their duty as a boring assignment rather than a critical responsibility. "They act like we are animals in a zoo," Bennett whispered. "Dangerous enough to keep caged, but not dangerous enough to fear." "Maybe that works in our favor," Morgan replied. "If someone does come for us, these aliens won't be ready for real resistance." Maya smiled inside her helmet. Dr. Morgan was right, though he had no idea how right he was. The HFY were about to discover that some humans were far more dangerous than they could possibly imagine. She found a maintenance shaft that led to the ventilation system above the detention block. The opening was just large enough for her human frame, though it would have been impossible for the larger HFY soldiers to use this route. Another advantage the aliens had not considered when designing their security. Maya climbed into the shaft and began crawling toward the main detention area. Her suit's systems automatically adjusted to the confined space, redistributing equipment and optimizing her movement efficiency. She moved in complete silence, her enhanced muscle control allowing her to flow through the narrow passage like liquid. Through the ventilation grates, she observed the guards below. They sat around a small table, playing their card game and discussing their plans for shore leave when the ship returned to Kethvar space. Occasionally, one of them would walk past the human cells, but even then their attention remained focused on their conversation rather than their prisoners. Maya counted 8. Guards in total, just as intelligence had predicted. She memorized each one's position, weapon placement, and movement patterns. Her implants calculated reaction times, threat assessments, and optimal engagement sequences. By the time she finished her reconnaissance, she had planned 17 different ways to eliminate every guard in the room. The ventilation shaft above the guard's station provided the perfect observation point. Maya could see the entire detention block from here, including the corridor that led to the main security checkpoint. When she moved, she would have approximately 4 minutes before the next patrol arrived to check on the guards. 4 minutes to eliminate 8 Kethvar warriors and free 12 human prisoners. For a normal human soldier, it would be impossible. For Maya Rodriguez, it would be barely enough time to work with proper precision. She studied the guards one final time, noting which ones carried communication devices and which ones had their weapons easily accessible. The Kethvar on the far left was left-handed and kept his energy pistol on his right hip for a cross-draw. The one nearest the cells had modified his armor for better mobility, but had weakened the protection around his neck joints. Another warrior showed signs of an old injury that would slow his reaction time on his right side. Maya's enhanced brain processed hundreds of details in seconds, building a complete tactical picture that would guide her actions when the time came to strike. The guards below had no idea they were being studied by a predator who could see every weakness, every flaw, every opportunity to turn their overconfidence into a fatal mistake. In the detention cells, Captain Bennett had fallen silent, struck by a sudden feeling that something was about to change. She could not explain the sensation, but years of diplomatic service in dangerous situations had taught her to trust her instincts. Something was different about the ship's atmosphere, a subtle tension that had not been there before. Dr. Morgan noticed her alertness and moved closer to the energy barrier that separated their cells. "Captain, what is it?" "I don't know," she replied quietly. "Maybe nothing, but stay ready." Above them, Maya Rodriguez prepared to show the Kethvar exactly how wrong they had been about human capabilities. The aliens thought humans were slow, clumsy creatures who could never threaten, superior warriors. They were about to learn that some humans had evolved far beyond their expectations, becoming something much more dangerous than any natural predator. The time for observation was over. Now came the moment of truth, when theory would meet reality, and the Kethvar would discover that their intelligence about humans was not just wrong, it was fatally incomplete. Admiral Zekthor stood before the massive viewing screen in his command center, his scaled hands clasped behind his back, as he watched the captured human vessel drift helplessly in the cargo bay below. The ship looked pathetic to his eyes with its crude metal hull and primitive energy systems. The humans inside were even more pathetic, he thought with satisfaction. "Report," he commanded, his voice a low hiss that carried across the bridge of the Kethvar warship Tal Hanor. "Commander." Vector approached, his claws clicking against the metal floor. "The human diplomatic vessel has been secured, Admiral. 12 prisoners taken alive as ordered. They offered no resistance worth noting." Zekthor's thin lips curved into what might have been a smile on a creature with softer features. Of course they did not resist. Look at them. He gestured toward the screen where security footage showed the captured humans being escorted to detention cells. They moved slowly, clumsily, their soft bodies completely unsuited for combat. Large mammals, slow reflexes, predictable movements. Our intelligence was correct. The bridge crew gathered around their admiral, eager to hear his assessment. These HFY warriors had fought across 3 star systems, conquering species after species with their lightning-fast reflexes and razor-sharp natural weapons. Their neural pathways fired faster than most organic beings could think, making them nearly unbeatable in close combat. Observe how they stumble, Zekthor continued, pointing at the screen. Their legs are too long, their balance poor. They lumber like the primitive beasts they evolved from. No wonder their military record shows such poor performance against species with proper reflexes. Commander Vectar nodded enthusiastically. Should we increase security around the detention level, Admiral? For these creatures? Zekthor's laugh was a harsh sound. 2 guards per shift will be more than adequate. These humans cannot move quickly enough to pose any threat to our warriors. Their reaction times are nearly 3 times slower than ours. In the detention cells deep within the ship, Captain Lisa Bennett sat on the cold metal bench and listened to her captors mock her species. The HFY guards spoke in their own language, but the universal translator in her ear picked up every cruel word. They called humans lumbering giants and slow-witted mammals who had somehow stumbled into space travel through pure luck. Bennett was a career diplomat, not a soldier, but she had spent enough time around Earth's military to know these aliens were making a dangerous mistake. The HFY were judging all humans based on a small sample of non-combatants. They had no idea what Earth's real warriors were capable of. "Captain," whispered Dr. Alex Morgan from the cell next to hers, "are you thinking what I'm thinking? That these lizards have never met a real human soldier?" Bennett replied quietly. "Yes, that thought had occurred to me." The HFY guards heard their whispers and laughed among themselves. One of them, a young warrior with bright green scales, walked closer to Bennett's cell. "You speak of soldiers, human. We have studied your military records. Your warriors are just as slow and clumsy as you diplomats. They rely on weapons and technology because their bodies are weak." Bennett said nothing, but inside she smiled. Earth's military records that these aliens had access to were carefully edited versions, showing only what humanity wanted potential enemies to see. The real capabilities of human special forces remained classified at the highest levels. Meanwhile, 3 light-years away, Lieutenant Maya Rodriguez stood at attention in the briefing room aboard the stealth ship Shadow's Edge. Commander Jake Patterson activated the holographic display, showing detailed schematics of the HFY command vessel. "The diplomatic mission to the HFY homeworld has failed," Patterson began. "Captain Bennett and her entire crew are being held prisoner aboard this ship." The hologram rotated, highlighting the detention levels. "Intelligence suggests they're being held here, in the lower security section." Maya studied the display with professional interest. She was tall for a human female, with lean muscle and enhanced reflexes that came from years of neural augmentation therapy. Behind her ears, barely visible scars marked where the enhancement implants had been inserted. The HFY had no idea such technology existed. "What do we know about their security protocols?" Maya asked. "They're overconfident," Patterson replied. Our captured signal's intelligence suggests they consider humans to be slow, weak creatures. They've assigned minimal guards to the detention area. Maya nodded. She had read the HFY intelligence reports that Earth's spies had intercepted. The aliens had based their entire assessment of human capabilities on observing diplomats, traders, and civilian colonists. They had never encountered a human military operative in action. Permission to begin infiltration preparations, Commander. Granted. But Maya, remember, they cannot know what you really are. If the HFY discover that humans have enhanced soldiers, it could trigger a full-scale war. Make it look like luck, not skill. Maya almost smiled at that. Making her abilities look like luck would be the hardest part of the mission. Her enhanced nervous system could process information and react to threats faster than most organic brains could register danger. Her muscles had been conditioned through years of training to move with precision that bordered on superhuman. The neural implants allowed her to calculate trajectory, timing, and probability in real time during combat. The HFY thought humans were slow because they had only seen humans who chose not to be fast. Maya Rodriguez had chosen differently. Back on the Tal Hanor, Admiral Zekthor reviewed the interrogation reports from his intelligence officers. The human prisoners had been cooperative, answering basic questions about their mission and their government. They seemed resigned to their fate, showing none of the desperate cunning that dangerous species exhibited when captured. They accept. Defeat too easily, he mused to Commander Vectar. A truly dangerous species would be planning escape attempts by now. Perhaps their slow minds simply cannot process the situation quickly enough to formulate plans, Vectar suggested. Perhaps. Still, their compliance makes them valuable for information gathering. Order the science division to begin biological studies. I want to understand exactly how these creatures managed to develop space travel despite their obvious physical limitations. The Admiral turned back to his screens, already dismissing the human prisoners as a minor inconvenience. His attention focused on more important matters, the upcoming conquest of human colonies in the Outer Rim territories. With such slow, clumsy defenders, those worlds would fall easily to HFY forces. In her cell, Captain Bennett heard the guards discussing the planned attacks on human settlements. She closed her eyes and tried to send a mental message across the stars to any human military forces that might be listening. The HFY were about to learn a very painful lesson about underestimating humanity. Maya Rodriguez completed her final equipment check and prepared to board the stolen HFY shuttle that would carry her to the enemy ship. The aliens' own arrogance would be their downfall. They expected slow, clumsy humans who could be easily defeated. Instead, they were about to meet a predator who had trained her entire life to move faster than thought, strike harder than lightning, and kill more efficiently than any natural creature ever could. The stage was set for humanity's response to alien arrogance, and Maya Rodriguez was ready to deliver that response with deadly precision.